My name is John Miller, and I am a middle school teacher. I currently teach 7th grade, and I'm teaching 7th grade world history right now. I've been exploring using games in my class for about 10 of the 20 plus years I've been teaching, and I can happily say those 10 years have really been the best because of this kind of experimentation. Not a lot of people to follow, to learn from at that time, but since then, it's been an incredibly exciting journey, and I've seen massive changes in my students and from my colleagues and from parents, their attitudes towards games, which is really important for me because I see games as more than just a distraction or something that you reward kids if they're good. I want to incorporate games in my lessons as much as possible, and I try. My lessons aren't all game-based, but I try to infuse a lot of games wherever I can. Okay, so there's the hashtags up there. Minecraft EDU is the Minecraft EDU community online, and there's a new Minecraft chat called Minecraft Ed. So you don't have to have any experience as a game player here. It does help if you're familiar with kind of concepts of games and gameplay mechanics, because that's really the ultimate goal that I'm thinking about when I'm playing with kids like this, is I want my kids to become and to think like game designers themselves. And ultimately, that's kind of how the year progresses with me. Okay, but first a bit of a differentiation here between the two. There's games-based learning and then gamification. I use both, but I emphasize more the game-based learning. That means to take a game and the game mechanics and actually use it for teaching. Immersing the kids in the game, using the gameplay, the dynamics of the gameplay to emphasize concepts you want to get across to the kids, skills, content, whatever it may be. And then gamification is more of a kind of a motivating tool to get kids to perform what you want them to do, to reward them with leveling up in the class and the star system. Teachers have been doing it for a long time. Motivation, gosh, yeah, motivation is if you've seen kids play games, and they are totally motivated to play games. And so I took that dive a few years ago and said, what do I got to lose? I'm going to go in there and play a game with the kids. I had a period where I had some flexibility with that, and I saw that motivation, and I was able to tap into it by introducing more games in class. It's the inspiration that I'm looking for now. Kids become inspired to write more, kids become inspired to read more, and they become inspired to produce more because they're playing games. And also, we don't have to just talk here about video games. Today, it's going to be more of the digital games, but I'm also interested, and I encourage you to explore other games out there. Card games, board games are great. Many of you, like me, when we were growing up, we had family game night, and I still get out game boards in the class and getting kids to think about designing games and building games of their own. Here are some of the heavy hitters in the game-based learning world, and I can concur that every one of these statements is true. It is empowering to every student in my class. Whatever their level is, from the SPED kids to the kids that have difficulty with or second language acquisition kids, up to GATE kids, special needs kids, and that's part of what we're going to show here today. Broad applications, the broadest application to anything I've ever seen. It does promote a sense of community. When we were just talking before this started with a friend, and when kids are in, let's say, Minecraft or a game in the class, they readily help each other. They don't have to be told that they are part of a community. It is a massive learning community and experience in the class when kids are focused on a game. Designing transformational experiences. I don't know who said that, but that appeared on Twitter several years ago. Jesse Shell has backed it up. But it's It truly is. I think of myself now as a designer of experiences for students. I'm not doing lessons anymore. I'm thinking of what kind of worlds could I plop these kids in with, what kind of challenges I could come up with, but then also how can I make it so that they can challenge themselves in these worlds. It's an experience playing some of these games. And it's definitely transformational and problem solving. With Minecraft, you're going to run into things that you don't know how to do, and they guarantee there's some kid in that class, probably 3 or 4, that will happily tell you how to get out of it, or will happily research it and come back the next day and tell you how to solve that problem you're having. So it's remarkable in that sense, too. Diverse populations, I mentioned that a little bit earlier, I have about 150 kids each year, and 10 years ago, 15 years ago, their range was like this. And I don't know about the rest of you, but the last 10 years, it's just doing this. And it becomes so hard, so challenging to reach every child. And I've discovered through this that, and through games like Minecraft, that I really can on their level. And it's astonishing. I've been working this year with we have the County Office of Education has some severely disabled kids on our campus. And I peeked in their door and asked their teacher, do you think you might want to come in and play some Minecraft with me someday with your kids? She said, sure, great. And she's been coming in every Thursday with her kids and bringing her kids in there. And she handed me a really high compliment just last Thursday, when she said, you know what, I've never seen these kids focused for this long on anything in class before. And especially a couple of these kids that literally have not been able to focus. And they're playing this game, they're immersed into this game. It's very real to them. And so it was a very nice thing to say, and it goes to support, I think, everything been thinking all along. I haven't run into a population of students where games, and in this sense, Minecraft has come up with a solution. Now, the first one we're going to talk about here today is Minecraft, and Minecraft is owned now by Microsoft, but Mojang manages the game, and it works on most OSs, handhelds, and consoles, but it doesn't work on Chrome. And that's been kind of a bug, because going around and promoting Minecraft, and there's so many of us are getting Chromebooks by the ton in our schools, but it doesn't work on Chrome, unfortunately. But I'll show you some things that are happening with Minecraft coming up. And some of you saw a little earlier, we have now a guest speaker. This is Simon, and Simon is in the UK, and he's a colleague that I met on Twitter, and discovered his blog, and was discovering he was writing about like exactly the same experiences I was writing about, but with a different population of kids. And so we've since bonded over that, and are working towards applying this game-based learning with our students. So I thought I'd introduce Simon and let him say a couple words and show you, perhaps, if we can get it to work here. Okay, you may not be able to see the audience, but there's 200-300 people here, and they're all staring at you. So have at it, off you go.
Okay, so as John said, my name's Simon Badley. I'm a secondary school teacher here in the UK. So I teach from the ages of 11 upwards. A state comprehensive school, so the ability range is very, very mixed. We get some high achieving students, we get mainstream students that have severe barriers to learning. And my own son, he's on the autistic spectrum, and he really, really struggles with reading and writing and with engaging in learning. And it was I think it was about 3 years ago, he was playing Minecraft with some of his friends, and because of his condition, he plays in the living room, and we can keep an eye on his interactions and ways he's communicating with people. We deal with any problems as they arise. So this one Friday night it went very quiet, and our alarm bell started to ring. Had something gone wrong? And when I stuck my head into the living room, he was sat cross-legged on the floor, with a notepad, scribbling away furiously, and he'd got 3 or 4 pages of stuff written down. And when I asked him what he was doing, he kind of went, Dad, shut up. So I looked over his shoulder, and he was mid-story, and he said, I'm writing this down because me and my friends have just played this in Minecraft, and I wanted to write it down before I practice it. So as an English teacher, my light went on, and I thought, flipping heck, if that works for my son, who is one of the most reluctant readers and writers I've ever met, it's got to work for the students. So I took the plunge, and I dragged it into my classroom, and haven't looked back, to be honest with you. So I'm going to try and let's take over the screen here. Is that coming through okay?
Yes.
Great stuff. So that's my contact details if anybody wants to sort of get in touch and continue the conversation afterwards. And really, it was about two, maybe 3 years ago. We launched, what does that say, 20th June 2014, so that was about 6 months into my journey. BBC came in, they'd done a series of reports, I suppose, and investigations into this phenomenon of Minecraft. And they got Stampy Longnote on the breakfast sofa, and they sent a team into my classroom with about 12 hours notice, I think it was. Found out at about this time, and they were in the next morning, so we were well prepared. So obviously, literacy. Literacy is my focus, and this is one of the first things that I set up to help my students and to explore literacy within Minecraft. I set up a central library so that each of the pods was themed around a different biome within Minecraft. And the idea was that students would walk into, say, the jungle pod and step onto a teleport pod, which would take them into a jungle. They could explore the jungle, they could create a storyline, they could role play, they could act out whatever they wanted to act out. But things might start to go wrong. And once they got to the jungle, they might be trying to find pumpkins to make pies, and they'd find no pumpkins. So then I added a pirate ship, and they'd tell the story of, well, the pirates have been and they've stolen pumpkins. So they might tell that story. And one student might decide, actually, they're friendly. They're really nice pirates, and we need to be trading with them. So once they've explored this little bit of storyline, they can return to the central library. And Minecraft's got books that you can type into. So they started typing the stories into Minecraft books. But not only that, as John said earlier, they were going away and they were researching how to solve problems, how to add things into their worlds. No kid ever stumbled across how to make a nether portal, but every single kid who plays Minecraft can build a nether portal. They research it themselves, they go out to YouTube, they go out to Google, they ask their friends, and they are real-world research skills. And if we can harness that and transfer them into their learning, half of our job's done before we start. What I've found with my students is we have to significantly camouflage the learning so that it doesn't feel like work, it doesn't feel like a chore, feel like a job. So I'm skimming very quickly through various different bits because I want to show you around a world and some possibilities. But one of the worlds that I use from the Minecraft EDU library is one of the first ones that Joel Levin built. It's a survival world based on the top of Mount Everest. And all the trees have gone, the ice caps have melted, and the last survivors of humanity are stuck on the top of Mount Everest. And students are that band of survivors. And I've used that world for everything from writing the diaries of scientists to holding election campaigns to try and elect a leader of the little group. This one particular boy decided to write the story of what happened to all the trees. And this guy had real serious barriers to learning. He couldn't engage. He had a latent ability, but education just held no value for him. He was switched off by school. So I think John mentioned Minecraft being able to hold a student focus. I think if you drop them into a world and make them the owners of that world, the outcomes matter to them. They really care about what happens to their village, what happens to their community. So I'm going to just have a quick tour around a world. This is a world that I've downloaded from Planet Minecraft. So you don't have to be a Minecraft expert to be able to build things. There's stuff available for free online that you can use as long as you can envisage what it could be used for. So I found this one, which was a great little film. So big solid gates, big walls around the outside, and as students start to explore, I don't know how jerky this is going through, but as students start to explore, they'll see a whole village built into a little dip. And I give my students the challenge of finding a house, creating a character that lives inside that house, giving them a backstory and a biography. So somebody might take over this tower, and they might become the wizard or the witch, and they create themselves a little backstory as to why they're in this village. Somebody might take over the market stalls, and they might be the baker. This house is always fought over, so I normally hold some kind of election campaign to elect a mayor, and the mayor gets owner of this house, and they get to lead the discussion and share various different things. There was one particular group a couple of years back when I first started using this, and this girl had been elected as the mayor of Storyville because she said, well, the first thing I'm going to do is make these gates so that they move and we can get out, because it's a bit of a fire hazard not being able to get out of the village if there's a fire. So she won the election and they elected her, and the first thing she said was, well, we could do some review writing. We could look at how sports reports are made and things like that. And we could write some sports reports about a race. So there was a nice little river. They decided they were going to have a boat race, and she cheated. So the community deposed her, and they had a bit of a political coup. They got rid of her, and we had to hold the election campaign again. But it was entirely led by them. They decided the rules. They decided what the community was going to look like, what rules they should follow, and she didn't follow those rules. So they were very quick to, sort of stamp on that kind of authority. Conscious of time here. So one of the little storylines that I created, I mentioned pumpkins earlier on. So this guy's the miller, and he's got cookies that he needs to make. So he sends the students off up in this pathway, and students are role-playing this all the time, by the way. They're in the game taking these roles themselves and almost doing it like a drama production. So the baker might send students off to find cookies, and if they enter inside this little cave at the top. So all the time they're describing the sort of claustrophobic caves, and describing the vines tickling their face they're walking through. And I hope it's going to load in. But they'll find this little cavern underneath the mountain, with a witch's house at the bottom. They always create a witch. I don't know why it's a witch, but it's always a witch that lives in this particular little cabin. And she's always a bad witch. She's always stolen something. So she's been lurking away underneath this mountain. Quite a nice little cabin. I'd live there. But they can create the story around that. They can they take it in whatever direction they want to take it. And people often ask me about how do you assess their outcomes? How do you judge whether they've got better? And I say, well, you've got to choose the best tool for the job. Sometimes you can assess within Minecraft, but why not get them screenshotting things, putting it into PowerPoint, and creating links between the PowerPoint slides so that they can choose a pathway. So one link might take them into the cavern down to this little hut, and the next link might take them up to the good witch who's her sister on the other side. So I've had students create, hyperlinked, choose your own adventure stories using PowerPoint. Yeah, the world of Minecraft offers so much potential for literacy and for engaging reluctant learners. It was an absolute dream in my classroom, and I haven't looked back since. I applied to be a Microsoft Innovative Educator on the back of them buying Minecraft. And it's just opened up an integrated world that I've not looked back from, using Sway, using PowerPoint, using all the different tools available, as well as app smashing and giving students access to an iPad with whatever apps they wanted to into it to create movies, to create collages and whatever else. If they want to demonstrate their learning in a particular way, I just let them run with it, because at the end of the day, it's their learning. They should be responsible for it. And if I can camouflage it so that it doesn't feel like learning, then the outcomes are going to fall. So, John,
thank you very much, Simon, for your terrific presentation. And as I keep telling everybody, I love what you're doing with students and as far as addressing literacy. But I also must say you have the most real-life avatar I've ever seen. You match absolutely perfectly. It
was very well put together.
Did anybody have a quick question for Simon, if you'd like, while we have him? If not, that's okay. Okay. Well, great, Simon. I'll leave you on the line here, but I'm going to go.
Yep, no problem.
I'm going to go back to the. We'll minimize you. There we go.
Do I have to stop sharing?
Thank you. Yeah, it's nobody please tweet to Mike Lawrence that we were playing Minecraft over Skype on the Wi-Fi. That's pretty crazy.
See my very messy.
So a little bit about me here and my students. I mentioned a little earlier that we're a bit isolated, and even though I'm a history teacher, I've taught language arts, and I really consider myself that language arts teacher, especially with our kids. We have about 800 kids in my school, and about 270 of them are still classified as English language learners. And of those 270, about 200 and something have been in our school district since kindergarten. So it frustrates me. So I'm going after it. I'm going after it hardcore here. So their reading, writing level skills they come to me at about third, fourth, fifth grade, and it should be about seventh grade. So traditional textbooks and things just don't work, and I've never really liked those anyway. So I've always been looking for a way to moderate it, to adjust that for my students. The skills, surprisingly, despite Minecraft's insane popularity of 100 million people, most of my students have never played before. So not only do I have to start by teaching them literacy skills, I have to start by teaching them Minecraft skills at the beginning of the year. So there's double challenge there. Behavior and motivation, as I mentioned before, I really don't have a lot once we dive right into that and they get into a routine. If you've got kids that are constantly not in their seats, having trouble staying focused, games like Minecraft will help focus them quickly. My classroom, though, despite what some people think that I have all these great tools and high tech, I really don't. My school itself is 8 years old, and I have a set of laptops that came with the school. And I'm the teacher, like many of you are out there too, that are buying replacement things and fixing hard drives and stuff because the district can't afford it or whatever. So these are a ragtag collection. I've got a great friend, Diane Main, who she sends some of her computers as donations down. And so it's a real hodgepodge of things. They're really old, but my IT likes what I do and really appreciates it. So he bends over backwards to try to keep it going. And that's a great thing about Minecraft. You don't need high-end machines, at least not yet. And this is the emphasis here, right? The kind of the standards. This is the emphasis for my district. Like many of us, we're Fisher and Fry, diving deep into that, moving from parts to the whole and general understandings to opinions. So we're always breaking down text, and we're all supposed to be doing text analysis. The difference is my text analysis, as you'll see, involves gameplay, and I think that's a lot more interesting for my students, and they respond in a much more positive way. Besides the text-dependent question things, I'm also teaching them tech skills, because they're not of that so-called digital generation where they know everything. They really don't. Geography, I'm always trying to emphasize that, because geography education is just abysmal. And evidence, right? We're always looking for evidence and kids pulling out evidence of actions in stories. And I'm trying to design experiences around the format of the order balance test. So when they sit there with that screen in front of them for hours, and bless their hearts, they sit there for 3 hours and they will try those tests. So I want them to become like comfortable with that too. And my own journey began with this game, Myst. Anybody remember Myst? It's really an immersive world, but it's a point-and-click world. There's hot links on each picture, and it's like going through a slideshow, and you're clicking on one particular area, and when you click on one area, you zoom in. And then when you click on another area, you zoom in, but it's totally a mysterious environment. And I thought this is a great game to try to get into the classroom. But it was on CDs, and those CDs were, whatever, $50 or something. And so I experimented trying to use it with my class, and it became a really popular event. Even though I was struggling, how do I apply this to history or to language arts or whatever I was teaching at the time, I could see the deep experience. It wasn't until I found this guy online, Tim Rylands, who uses Myst in an incredible way. And he's definitely worth following. Here's what he has done with his students. And so they're watching the game Myst. They're playing one teacher. He's playing with them. And this is a writing exercise.
Good. There is lightning like ink dropped into water. Somebody say something like that? See the way that water's moving. Can anybody give me any similes or metaphors for those? Well, look, the colour of that rock. A white heart.
Streaked with scars like a gaping wound.
Say that again. Streaked.
Streaked with scars like a gaping wound.
Scarred like a gaping wound. Yes. So let's have a look. The memories flood over me too fast. They race around inside my head, filling my soul with despair. See, that's a really good use of the comma there, isn't it? And the more I think about how nothing can be done, comma, how no one can be alive outside his shield, comma, the faster the fog rushes in. I'm going to ask somebody to have a go at doing a running commentary. As we go on, we're going to walk through and somebody have a go. Who fancies having a go at doing a running commentary? Tom, have a go?
I step cautiously onto the cold, brown metal track to meet a throbbing noise in my ears of drums beating. The rhythm was ba-boom, ba-boom, ba-boom. The circles in front of me looking like turret buildings with platforms to step on.
Nicely done, well done. Sorry Claire, what's that?
Maybe it's a machine down there which somebody's using to get somewhere or do something they need to do. No, we have to solve something because look, it goes into the water.
Ah, right, so...
We're trying to solve the problems of how to get from one scene to the next is a mystery.
Now we're going out different.
Going out, here we go, we're going, oh, there's your scarred rock. So...
Oh, this is the bit where the button.
Should we press it?
Yeah!
I'm sorry, folks. It's lunchtime. Well done. Excellent. fantastic. Now, what you're going to need to do.
Yeah, and so I saw that and said, I want to be that guy. I want to sit in that classroom. I want to be one of those students. And they were watching between scenes. They would insert a video that would transition you to the next scene, and which would be more clues that you have to uncover and figure out what was going on. And this game went on through several iterations. That was a problem. That game went away, and the computer, this is kind of the opposite of what's happening now. The computer hardware advanced, and the game became obsolete. And so I couldn't use it much further than just a year or two, until I discovered this one, because I wanted that experience. Machinarium, it's called. And I've played hundreds of games, and this is still an all-time favorite. It is so simple, and it works on pretty much everything. A lesson to game designers out there, and the World Game Developers Conference is going on right now, and that's what we want to target. Play on most about everything. It's been out a long time, and the idea is that you are this little character, this guy here, and he gets kicked out of the city. You don't know why. And he has to find his way back in, and as he's finding his way back in, you're helping him uncover clues. You also uncover clues as to what happened, why he got kicked out. And there's a plot, and he has a girlfriend, and he's trying to save people. And it's very much in the fashion of Myst, where it's point and click. So it never fails. In a scene, move the mouse, click, something happens. And so let's watch the little trailer here for this one. Manipulating the character, and you're trying to test things out. How do I get out of this scene? There are no words in this entire game. The kids love these scenes because they're very comic bookish. They're very visual. And play, and every is trying to give you some ideas about what you have to do next. You get by one scene, and here comes another one with another set of challenges. Those are the bad guys. Just moving the mouse around and clicking on areas. There we go. It's a phenomenal game, and I started having kids write, but then we got Google. I said, okay, let's write on a Google form. And I think this might have been my first Google form I ever made. And it's my most used Google form ever, because I use it constantly, all the time. Who knew that this would be it? All I ask for, your name and my best sentence, and submit. And then you get this. So as we're playing the game, either at the end of the game or when we came to a point in that session, I'd say, okay, what was your best sentence describing what we just saw? And this is to start out the year. Simple gameplay, tell me what you've seen. And for my students at the beginning of the year who would struggle to write much of anything, this was phenomenal, using these great words, because we practice these too. We're trying to emphasize great descriptive text. And as soon as I saw this, I said, this is the game, this is great. And so we've incorporated that every year since then, just playing 10, 15 minutes at a time, trying to get the kids to help me figure out how to move from one session to the next. If you put it side by side, it works really great too. So we're playing the game, and then there's the Google form, in the spreadsheet form, and I remove the kids' names, and then it's coming in live. So the kids are getting instant feedback, and they're trying to top each other on who can write the coolest, most descriptive sentence on there. And it's a load of fun that way, absolute load of fun. And so combining these two I still use this today, and this is 8 years ago, I think. And the most fantastic thing about it is I use it not just for Machinarium, but for any visual experiences of my kids. This is the exit ticket. This is a quick check for understanding. I have them write a sentence. You could have this form be your best simile, your best adjective, your best paragraph, whatever you want. And I keep using the same form. I've included another column now for period. But if you keep using the same form, you're gathering all the kids' responses for the whole year. So on this one form, I just counted it the other day, I have 15 writing samples from 160 kids all on one spreadsheet. And of course, by timestamp, now you can sort it by day 2 of school to day 170 of school. And share this with the kids and talk about growth, share it with the parents, and look how better your sentences are getting. So that one simple little tool was a big change for me. Okay, this game I just discovered in December. It came out. It was a quick Kickstarter game, and so I participated in that. And the idea here is it's a game, but it's a game about writing. The idea of this game is it's a side scroller. So you're going to see a magnificent world that's based on one of the 3 literary giants. And I'll let them explain it in their video. But you're writing. It includes prompts. It includes prompts for younger kids up to older kids, and it also includes no prompts. So you can just write your story as you're making your way through.
We have received your message that your vessel has been destroyed and your colleagues have been lost. Your mission is unchanged. Explore the 3 lost civilizations
there you are.
And record your findings.
There's your task.
When your computer prompts you to write, use your keyboard to complete the entries as shown here. The prompts identify points of interest and provide a catalyst for your writing, but you may also record your thoughts freeform. When you have completed this analysis, it will become a matter of public record, a final elegy to these dead worlds. We know you are lost, but we will find a way to bring you home. Write your stories, share them, and we will all hear you.
Okay, yeah, so that's the idea, and it worked out pretty well. I tried it this past December or January with my students, and we did get into it. You can, as I mentioned, share your writing with others in the game, but you don't want to do that because then the other writing isn't very good, and some of it's pretty profane too. So you can, though, make a book out of this. There's a couple of book sites, Blurb, and there's another one, Lulu, that you can send this to, and they'll print a book for your class of the story that you created. It's cool. The kids liked it, and I like that idea of those writing prompts that send kids somewhere else. I was looking for that virtual world, though, and a multiplayer, so it wasn't just me in the class. Let's all play together. Let's all experience something. What could we do? And that's when I found Minecraft myself. And for me, Minecraft is absolutely a tool that addresses literacy directly, and it's embedded. My kids are constructing their meaning of content and of literacy standards through this game. And I've never seen a better implementation of a game for writing, for creativity than Minecraft. They're creating their own experiences in there. This is a world that I first created at the beginning of the year. and that's Timbuktu, in medieval Timbuktu. And the kids get to go in there and experience it. There's Mansa Musa is in here. They get to meet him and interact with him, and Mansa Musa sends them on a quest. This is a Japanese world that was created with my students. By this time in mid-year, my students are ready to tackle some creation of the content of themselves. So most all of what you see here was created by kids. That's called a texture pack or a resource pack in Minecraft. It takes regular Minecraft blocks and modifies them, changes them. In this case, it's a Japanese theme with the rising sun. This took a week of the kids, of Minecraft time, so 5 class periods to do this. What they did in here was not just build these little huts, built them for specific people. And this was a great way to introduce literacy and games. We did it through poetry. The kids had to write a Tonka poem, which is the predecessor of haiku. And so this is one of my 7th grade kids put that out there, and my jaw dropped because he's describing the rice farmer that lives right over here. And he put that character in the game. So when you walk up to that character, he tells you his poem. And so all 150 kids did that, and this village is full. It's the poetry village. We ended up also doing this with a school in Hawaii, and some of their kids joined us, and they wrote poems too. And it was a fascinating experience for my kids to do that. This is a Viking territory and a Viking land, and this was one of my favorites, and where I directly address as many literacy standards as possible. What I did was I took content which was often presented rather boring, and I have a good friend that's a writer, and we worked together to create a series of stories, historical narratives. And we took the content we wanted and we embedded it in there. And so the kids read this as the whole class does. This was on the Dark Ages. And then I've created this, which is where we annotate. We highlight things we're looking for. We circle because we're doing the Google Apps. But we color code things. We look for images. And I'm trying to teach these kids all of these. My whole second semester is this work here, introducing the kids to something to read. I make sure they understand the story, target specific things I'm looking for, and then I've recreated that scene in Minecraft. So the kids then dive into Minecraft and they get to experience that. So they get to talk to the characters, or there's other characters in there that are new, that offer a different perspective, different points of view. And the kids are recording their information by interacting with these characters. They're writing their own historical novel. In a narrative, in first person now, they're a character in the game, and we're introducing dialogue now, which is really hard to write, but they're getting it. Kids that are 3rd, 4th, 5th grade level are writing. They always want to know, how much do we have to write? I say, well, 350 words, because that's a page. And I'm getting choked up because this last week, the kids wrote for 4 solid days, 150 kids, to tell their story. And most of them had over 1,000 words because they were there. They were in this world. They interacted with all these characters. As this goes on, these kids start to build this out. I pull back. And they're starting to create their own version of history. They're building it. We're now in medieval Birmingham, and they're building this village complete with who they are, their characters, and writing about it in an extraordinary way. And by the end of this school year, most of my kids will have written 20 to 40 pages of history. They're constructing their own understanding in there, and at this point, I'm totally backing out of the game, and they have almost taken over completely. And it's been an astonishing experience for me and for them. And here's the last thing, because I want to get you out of here on time. That mist I told you about in 1993. The people that created that game, that many of us who played it loved so much, they had a Kickstarter campaign that people just flooded them with, and they're making a new version. Well, not a new version. It sort of takes over where Myst finished. But here's the teaser for it.
We all lost everything. Everything but our stories. And they shouldn't be forgotten.
Cannot wait, and I don't think I have to wait too much longer because it's supposed to be out in June. And another deeply immersive experience. That's the kind of game like Machinarium where if you're interested in starting out with, I'm going to challenge one of these games, do the Tim Rylands method. Get one game, put it on your computer. If it works on Chrome, great. If not, get something that it works on and project it and sit in the middle of the class with the kids and have fun. It's astonishing that what's happening. If you have any more questions about Minecraft, this year there's a huge interest in Minecraft, so we actually have a room set up at the Hyatt Hotel just off the lobby where you can come and play Minecraft if you want. We're going to try to answer what questions you have. It's very casual, and because Minecraft's going through some changes in the education field, so we'll answer any questions you have there. But yeah, feel free to connect anytime, ask questions, join us, help me develop some game ideas. I'd love to collaborate with people too. Thank you.